to stay in the county jails for a while. They jerk all of them out and send them into the state prison system. The private prisons are strong politically in the state. They wanted those prisoners. And it's a little frustrating for us because we can house our prisoners for $20 a day. The state system charges, the private prison system charges the state $52 a day. Yet because of their political influence, they get the prisoners. Our county jails don't. And it's something that we get mad about. We've been mad about it for a long time, but it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. So that hurt the sheriff's ability to operate and maintain the jail with those prisoners getting out of there. And you got to remember when we got into this thing, and it really is not just Haskell County. We've had problems in Pittsburgh County, McIntosh County, other counties where they've had to go in and vote more sales tax money to operate and maintain their jails and make their debt service. But we got into this thing, and the architects signed these jails with the understanding from the state that they were going to leave their prisoners in there as long as they could, because that's good for the state system too. The state can't house prisoners for what they can be housed in a county jail. Can't do it. Costs them more money than that. But this guy decided he'd jerk them all out, put them in the state system, and they're reaping the consequences of that with understaffing and riots, and got a number of them killed, 3 or 4 of them killed this past couple of weeks because of gang violence and fights. So, at any rate, in 2014, we had an opportunity to refund those initial bonds that were issued, and we could lower the interest rate and also levelize the debt service so that it was consistent and it wouldn't keep increasing throughout the term of the bonds. We did that. We also found, that was in June of 2014, we also found that in April of this year, we had a shortfall of around $400,000 in order to make our payment in April. D.A. Davidson found an investor who would loan money on a second lien subordinated debt type situation to allow us to get that paid off and just pay interest on it for 10 years until it looked like, by our projections, even now we could get back on our feet. The problem is, even with all that, everything we've done, and I don't know, and these guys don't know how to pull any more rabbits out of the hat.
How much was that second one? How much was the second one that the loan on?
The subordinated debt,
yeah,
$450,000.
Can you tell us why the cost went up $2.5 million midstream construction?
Yeah, I can tell you, the commissioners, I think early on, and really that's an architect question, but I can tell you what happened. The commissioners at that time wanted to hold the debt, if at all possible, to $5 million. Because of what happened to us with Katrina, and it turned out that we just couldn't do it for that anyway. It became necessary to borrow another $250 $2.5 million to get the jail completed. The commissioners tried their very best. Everybody tried their very best to hold that ceiling down, but everything went the wrong way on us as far as building costs were concerned.
So did we enter that phase knowing that the cash flow wouldn't satisfy the $7.5 million?
I'm sorry, what?
So the cash flow was adequate to cover the $5.5 million worth of bonds. So did we make the decision knowing that the cash flow wouldn't satisfy the $7.5 million worth of bonds?
Actually, in 2005 things were good. 2006 things were good. 2007 they were good. As a matter of fact, the sales tax increased by 97% in 2007. But after that year, it just the bottom fell out.
Was the cash flow calculated on $5 million or $7.5 million?
7.5.
So you knew up front it was going to cost $7.5 million.
No, that after we got, we figure out what the jail's going to cost first, and that included the additional $2.5 million. We knew what the costs were going to be when we structured the thing, and you know, y'all, it looked like the numbers showed that it was going to work. The problem is nobody in the world would have anticipated that our tax would go down 35%. It just had never ever happened before.
Was part of the financial exercise the prisoners from the Department of Corrections? Was that in their pro forma to develop and to satisfy the debt?
No, sir.
Randy, as far as I know, as long as I've been commissioner, we've never gotten any state prisoners. Now we've gotten them from Tulsa, waiting to go prison, but he mentioned about getting state prisoners. Now, technically, as far as I can tell, we've never had a state prisoner.
What happens is, if a person is in the jail, they stay there until they get what they call a judgment and sentence. What the state would allow you to do is keep those prisoners. Now, they're your prisoners. They're not prisoners that are being brought in. They're not prisoners that are being brought in from somewhere else. Except, like Paul said, we got some from Tulsa County and a few from other counties where it's overcrowded. But to get back to the original question, no, we don't cash flow these things based on what might come in. It's simply based on what our sales tax returns are.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
When this jail was proposed to be built, did you guys have a contract to satisfy the financial debt of what this jail was going to cost? Or did we just out of the blue decide we just needed to build a jail without thinking it out before we started into a business which is now involving everybody in this room? You've made us partners in this, and they're wanting us to bail them out. I've got no problem with helping. But my problem is if you're going to do the sales tax, if you don't do the sales tax, the property owners are going to have to foot the bill. If you do the sales tax, you need to earmark that says we're going to pay this jail off. That don't mean that you get to give everybody raises, and that don't mean you get operating money. You've already got operating money. So I guess my question is, if you want to push a sales tax through, is this going to be something that you're going to have broke down to where the voters and the people of this community are going to understand that we are only paying this sales tax until this jail gets paid off, and then that baby's out of there. And it don't go to the fire department or the Haskell County commissioners to do what they want to with it. It stops at that time.
Yes, sir. And we've made this language tight.
Well, you've made it to where I can't understand it, and I may be stupid, but I can't understand some of this stuff we're reading here.
Well, it's as tight really as it can be, and that's the only purpose. This purpose goes to pay the debt and operate and maintain the jail and nothing else.
But you're already operating and maintaining the jail. You're just not making your payments in full, right? The jail's out there open right now, isn't it?
Well, it's open, but I don't know, I don't see the sheriff, he was gonna be here.
He's here.
Okay. But he's, you know, we're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul and working real hard to keep it open. Now, I think he's cut the staff down to the bone. I don't think he can cut it anymore.
Well, my first question was, though, did you have a contract lined up to pay for this jail when you guys decided to build it?
Let me tell you how this works.
I appreciate it.
We're bond lawyers, so we get contacted by a county, and the commissioners at that time contacted us and said, we need a jail, can you tell us how to finance it? At that time, the architects come in to design a jail, put a price tag on it, then the financial advisors take a look, see what a certain percentage of sales tax, either a half cent or a quarter or a penny or whatever, will generate to see what can be done. Now there are projections that are made on that, but the architect will come in and say, by jail standards, you need a jail with X number of beds, 60, 90 beds, whatever it turns out to be, 120. And the cost of building a jail like that is X dollars. Based on that, and based on what the sales tax is generating, or could be projected to generate, then we call an election.
Well, let me ask one more thing. I mean, you're walking around telling me stuff about what we already know we're into. When this deal was done, did you not have any kind of a safeguard, like an insurance or something, in case you could not make the payments to where it would kick in and take over at that point?
The original bond issue had bond insurance on it.
Does it not now?
Well, the problem is in 2008, the bond insurer went bankrupt.
But somebody had to pick that up.
Out of business. Well,
They should have. It's a guaranteed deal, isn't it? Am I wrong?
Is this Radian? I looked it up and they've been acquired by that same group. So if they went bankrupt, I mean, that's a $78,000 premium that they were paying annually on that to guarantee, I believe it says, ensuring payment of principal and interest on the above referenced bonds.
John had to address that.
The problem back in, I think, 2008, 2009 was basically the municipal bond insurance industry went out of business. And instead of one insurer going down and those assets being acquired by another insurer, you know how reinsurance works. The problem is the whole industry went upside down. And so what happened to us is those guarantees became worthless and meaningless to us. And it's not just you. It's happened to every municipal issuer in the United States that had bond insurance.
So do you just let that go? I mean, do you not sue them to get that back? Because you spent money on them to take care of this loan.
I didn't do anything.
Well, somebody did.
Yeah. What we're saying is,
You looked them up on the internet and that bunch right there, Radian, was acquired.
Who was acquired by?
Assured Guaranty Corporation.
The Assured Guaranty Corporation went down.
So it went out too.
It went out too.
Amazing consequences.
well, but you see that when you acquire these things, they don't have to necessarily acquire their liabilities. And the problem is things were so tight that the bond insurance industry as a whole had more insurance out there than they can pay off. It's a lot like the Federal Reserve. You know, you say your deposits are guaranteed to $250,000. If the bank's